Well, hello. This is Mary Rose Wildfire McGuire, and I am introducing a new interview series. And I'm very excited about this series where I interview various financial advisors and planners who have written a book and just talking about their experience, why they wrote the book, who they wrote the book for, what the results were, what the process was like. Because many times when people do write a book, it's tough. And I have worked through a lot of authors and worked through the process and have seen the bumps and everything. So I think it's encouraging to hear the story of somebody who actually went through the entire journey and have something to show for it. So I would like to introduce Dawn Santoriello. Son, made sure I get her name right, who is a certified financial planner, has written a wonderful book, which I just told her is quite different, I think, from many of the other financial advisor or financial planner books I've seen, because it kind of hits into that more of the manifest your destiny type of perspective. And I haven't seen that kind of an approach or an angle taken yet. So I'm very excited about talking with Dawn. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start with the first question. I have a lot of questions for her. But first, Dawn, how about if you just tell us about your book, tell us the title, and all that information.
Sure. I wrote two books, but my most recent book and the one that I really love is Manifest and Invest, Live Your Best Life, Get Your Money Right. And the first one was The Spiritual Path to Prosperity, The Truth About Money Revealed. But what my books are about, they're basically, like you said, about manifesting, because my biggest thing and my struggle was I had the lack mentality. Everything was scarcity. I was always afraid of running out of money. And that was just like running everything, my business. I talk about in both books of how I was so broke that I basically had to go bartend, do manual labor for one of my neighbors, just so I could stay afloat. Because when you're starting out in this business, it is tough. And I moved to an area I didn't know anybody. So it was really kind of difficult. And I loved this business and I knew I was going to make it. I just didn't know when that was going to happen. So I had to do whatever it took. And then what actually led me to write the book is I worked with a spiritual advisor for a few years, and she said, "I see you writing a book." I'm like, "Yeah, on what?" She's like, "Spirituality and finance." I'm like, "I don't think so." I'm like, my clients will leave. People think I'm crazy. And then as I was pondering, I'm like, you know what? Well, if I'm going to go write that kind of a book, I better go become a CFP. So I passed the CFP. I'm like, okay, good. Now I have credentials so people know. I like to call it like the whole spiritualness, the woo-woo side. So when they see that, they'll also see it's backed by, you know, a degree and everything, and that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to money. It's not just manifesting it out of thin air. But yeah, like you said, what makes my book unique is that I touch on that stuff. I cover, because let's say you can't keep money. You see lotto winners all the time. They run out of money in like 2 years. They're broke and they win millions. It's why? Because they're operating on scarcity mindset and they didn't work on clearing those blocks. And I talk about that in the book too, money blocks, because it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're blocked, you're going to get that money and boom, it's going to be gone just as fast as it came in. So that's an important foundation. So I bring that out in the first half of the book because I want to ease people in, say, hey, you know what? You can do this. I was dirt poor when I was brought into this world, and I went through all my struggles, made my mistakes, and I still made it. So I like to give people that hope. And it's like, okay, this is what I did. This is how I typically start my day. Here's how you clear your blocks. So you don't have to be afraid anymore. So they're comfortable, then they're ready to have a money conversation. Because if someone is living in fear and they're not even open to having a money conversation. So you have to calm them down, let them know, okay, there's things that you could do. They're not alone. And then once they're able to do that, they worked on clearing their blocks. Now they're receptive. Then I talk about, okay, the basics. Here's how we manage money. Here's how we get out of debt. Here's how we stay out of debt. Here's how we invest our money. Here's how we shouldn't invest our money. Here's how we really grow our wealth. And then we talk about how to protect it from taxes. So the book has a little something for everybody, whether you're just starting out or you're a sophisticated investor looking to protect your wealth from higher taxes that are soon to hit us.
Very good. Wow. That is just incredible. I love how you first approach the people you talk with regarding, it sounds like you're touching upon some of their beliefs about
Mhm.
money,
Yep.
and really tackling that area first before you're offering your advice. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And I share my personal story too. Um, and I wish I would have known that. That's what really drove people to work with me. And I was like, really? Because I talk about being so poor. And like at one point I was like stuck in a parking garage. I couldn't get out. I had only $200 to my name. My credit cards were maxed out. And then boom, later that year I made over six figures, all from like following like the law of attraction, manifesting, working hard, and just making it happen.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it's interesting that you said that about, what I call the origin story, because the books that I've helped other financial advisors on, I've noticed that there's a commonality regarding why they're doing what they're doing,
Yep.
because they themselves came from a background of either struggling with money or seeing their parents struggle with money, and they want to help other people, to avoid those kinds of situations that they had been in. So it's really important to share that story, so that's really good that you did that,
Thank you.
and that you're being transparent about it. Because I think when you talk about money, I think a lot of people that, sometimes it's covered with shame,
Mhm.
sometimes embarrassment. There's a lot of emotions that's tied in with money. And when you let other people know that you also have struggled, I think that softens them up a bit and makes them
Mhm.
realize, okay, I'm not the only one. I mean, here this person has a degree, or certification, and even they've had their issues.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's like when I did during COVID is when the book came out and I did my first workshop, and I did it with my like based on this book. And so the one person signed up for their complimentary consultation, and I'm like, why did you agree to work with me and to meet with me? She's like, well, because you're real. It's like your story. Like I was like, oh wow. So all I had to do was be me and share my embarrassing moments. And that was the key, instead of trying to be someone else, following someone else's sales process. And I was like, well, I wish I would have known that sooner.
Yeah. Well, you're still very young, so you've got a
Yeah.
lot of runway ahead of you. So you
Oh,
can
and
continue, you can continue to apply that.
hopefully,
So
yeah, I turned 46. So, and it's like, oh, 19 years in the business. I'm like, oh, wow. I remember when I just started at 26. Yeah.
Well, who is the audience for your book? Did you have a particular group of people or particular person for your book that when you sat down to start writing it?
No, I just wanted to inspire the world. So that's why it kind of touches on a little bit for each person. For women, I wrote a whole chapter on them, just to say, hey, you got to rely on yourself. Even if you're married, a man's not a financial plan. And if you're the breadwinner, you got to make sure, like, you're in, same things to make sure that's covered. People who are stuck in debt, don't know how to get out. People who really want to save the right way, because we've been taught how to save, but it's not really to our benefit. Like, for example, IRAs and 401ks. We're told those are like the holy grail, save as much in that. But that's really not beneficial to us, because that's not all our money. Yeah, that's part of the IRS, and the government has part of that money in there. And you won't know until you retire and what tax bracket you're in. So I show people, hey, there's other ways to save money, and that's more efficient for you in a tax-free way. So it's basically a little bit for everybody. Now, financially, I can't help someone if they're dirt poor. Like I did get some of those calls, and I'm like, well, follow my techniques for clearing money blocks. I'll do my manifestation prayer with you. But other than that, I really can't give you any other guidance, since you need to actually go out there and get some income and start doing stuff, and just the basics like save 20% or whatever you can save. So I think there's a little bit for each person, but I didn't sit down. I just sat down and was like, okay, I just want to write and share. I didn't really have a particular person that I was writing to. I just said, okay, let me get this message out there and share with people. And yeah,
Yeah.
kind of scary too, because I was like, whoa, I'm really talking about something like that's controversial. And then even in my book, I talk about controversial topics for CFPs. Um, Typically, not all of them, a lot of them do not like life insurance as a wealth transfer vehicle, or a way to save, and and then what else? And then different like annuities and stuff like that. So yeah, touches on the goods and pros of every one of those. So
Right. And
yeah.
by the way, for you and anyone else listening, if you can get controversial takes on a topic, it is very good for marketing. Really good, because it's differentiating yourself from everybody else. And if you notice, people who are controversial usually do get attention. So
Yeah.
so, you'll have your detractors for sure. You'll have people who disagree with you, but it allows other people who are like what I call your tribe to all of a sudden say, "Whoa, okay, that person's saying exactly what I believe in," you know?
Mhm. Yeah, like I tell
So,
people, we don't pick individual stocks. We don't do this. Nobody can beat the market. We don't time the market. We're not active. And a lot's again very controversial on the investment side because everyone's like, oh no, I can beat the market. But when you look at all the academic research, it's nobody can in the long term. So
right,
yeah.
right, right. So I noticed that you have two books.
Mhm.
Uh, it looks like, was Manifest and Invest your first book or your second?
That was my second book. And basically what I did with the first book is I revamped it, added some extra stuff into there, and especially like the testimonials about people I've done the manifestation prayer with, what lovely things they've manifested. And I added a money blocks quiz so you could actually determine, okay, this is my money blocks, the one I have. I just had the money blocks in the first one, no quiz. Added a chapter on women. And I think I left out annuities in the first book. So I went and added that a little chapter in the second book. So
Very
I'm proud of
good.
this book.
Well,
I actually,
congrats for like doing a second book. I'm working on a second book. I have one book, but another woman who has written a lot of different books and she advises writers, she said, don't just stop at one book, And one of the ideas that she had, which I thought was a really great one, was she said, if you have like your first book, she said, take one of the chapters of that book and then create another book from that and go deeper into that topic. And I thought that was a great way to go about it. Another is you could do a series based on what you covered maybe in your first book also.
yeah.
So there's lots of different ways you could go, but having more than one book is really powerful. So congratulations on that. Anybody watching, if you are thinking about doing one book, get that book out of the way and then start on another one. Okay, so you explained a little bit of what was going on in your life that inspired you to write the book, but like when you sat down to write this second book in particular, why did you decide to write it at that point?
Okay, well, the second book, I was never going to write a second book, but I came
Aha.
out with the first, yeah, the first one during COVID. I'm like, well, hey, and that because, well, yeah, backtrack to the first book. So I lost my scarcity mentality, which is very ironic when COVID hit. I was like, okay, I'm not worried about money. It just flows. And ever since then, I've been having record years. Each year is better than the last. So I'm like, wow, that's pretty funny. Everybody else was all concerned, and I finally broke free. So then I was all excited for the first book. And then someone said, well, where's your second book? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm never writing another book. Here's the book. This is all I got. I'm like, why would I write a second book? Let me celebrate. Like, this is good. And then October of 2022, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just go write another book. Let's do it. Yeah. And then it only took 8 days because I basically repurposed it. And the hardest part, I'm sure you know, about writing a book is actually doing it. Like, I'm a procrastinator. Even in college, I would write all these papers, but in high school, I'd wait till the very last minute and then turn it in because I needed to give myself a deadline. And then because I'm such a geek, I want to beat my deadlines. I would set a deadline and then I'd have to beat that deadline. So that helped me with both of the books to finish them. Um, Wait, did I answer the question? Sometimes I get so into what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
I'm
yeah. No,
lost.
you're perfect. Yep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's in fact, you named the number one reason why many people don't write a book. Well, actually, it might be number two. The first is they don't know how to get started. So getting started, understanding exactly what you want to say in the book, creating an outline is a great way to figure out what you want to say. But I have like several ideas I work with my clients on how to get started. But the other is finding the time to write,
Yeah.
and actually doing it, just like you said. So I know that's one of my questions. Let me see if I might jump to it. Well, yeah, actually, it is the next one. Let's talk about your process excuse me, for writing the book. So, for instance, did you have a firm routine for writing content? How did you make the time to write the book?
I'm like all over the place. I hired a book coach for the first one and then another coach for the second one. So I was like, oh, I found articles that I wrote. So I smushed them all together. And then I was like, okay, well, and then she like helped me with the outline. So I'm like, I don't know what to write for the outline. I'm like, I just want to write and have people put it together. So then she structured that for me. So I was like, okay. So I put it in, made sure I had stuff to go into that part of the outline. So I really, and I just like, oh, okay, I have a couple hours here. Let me just go writing. I'm like, let's just beat this deadline. Come on. Because I was just like willy-nilly here or there. Oh, I have a day here. I'll write something here. But then it wasn't until I said, okay, here it is. The first book was April 30th. I have to have my book done. So I got it done April 15th. And the second one, I don't know, was August something. I probably did August 15th, and I think I was done August 8th. So that was the main thing. If I didn't give myself a deadline, I was never going to do it because I was like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Or so you have that was my thing. And there were things I wish I could have done differently. Especially after this weekend, I met with a friend in Nashville and I was like, oh, damn. I'm like, you really have it good. I'm like, I would be a superstar if I went that route. And I'm like, okay. So
What
yeah, there's a lot of learning curve.
right. What
Attracting.
did your friend tell you that you could have done
She
differently?
hired this great PR firm where she's going on billboards in New York City, getting on TV shows in New York City. They're doing launches in Miami, New York, and LA. And I was
Ah,
like, if I could get on a show, I tried to get on different shows. I mailed them. My coach was like, here's a list of addresses. And just better PR. She just has better PR. They're going to be in Vogue, Cosmo, all these other magazines. And I'm like,
um,
wow,
yeah,
that
those
I
are
would,
some big, yeah,
yeah,
those are some big channels there, right? Yeah,
yeah. So
interesting. So what was the duration of how long it took you to write your book? Like when did you start and when was it finished?
So let's see. The first way I wrote 2018, I wrote a page because I was all upset about the industry, about being independent versus not captive and all this stuff. And that I stopped. Then I waited again until COVID hit till March 2020. Then I started writing again. And then, like I said, I finished in that following April because I really wasn't really doing it. I was like postponing. And then I was like, you know what? This is going on too long. Let's just get it done.
So
So
it was close to a year. Is that what?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But when
Gotcha.
I really got down to it, it was a couple months when I really put the effort in.
Right, right. Yeah, sometimes it takes time, especially if you're working with an editor or a ghostwriter, going back and forth, you know.
Yeah, when I did it
So,
the hard
yeah.
way, yeah, I did it all on my own. Now people could write books like that, like with Chat and GPT or whatever, however that works. But I was like, no, me and my brain, I'm sitting there. And then yeah, you had to go to the editor, and they had to read it and then reread it. That was the hardest part, like rereading the stuff. I'm like, I don't want to read my book again. I'm like, I already wrote it. And they're like, well, you're the expert. We have to make sure all the financial stuff is correct. And then we do all the grammar. And it's like, that's so tedious. I remember I was on a call with my coach for 2 hours going through that. And I was like, oh, I didn't do that. I don't like
What
all those things.
what would you consider your biggest obstacle in writing your book?
Myself, yeah,
Oh,
me. The one thing, the book would have never came out if I didn't have the confidence to like, because what I'm talking about in the book is like, yeah, no one talks about a manifestation prayer. That's like, they'll think you're nuts, but I'm a great hit in California. That's how I got that one first lady from my workshop. She's like, she was in California and she loved the story. But yeah, myself getting the time, having the discipline and like the confidence to be like, you know what, this is my message. Yeah, I'm not for everybody, but a lot of people it'll benefit. And everyone, like my first book coach, when she read the book, or not the second one, I'm sorry. She's like, Dawn, this is like a little mini Bible. She's like, this has everything. It's all like concise. So,
mm,
so I was proud of that. So that was a good accomplishment that it like, at least it wasn't long winded and just got to the point. And
right.
so they found some little tidbits of it. And then the best part was getting clients from the books. That was made it all worth it.
Yes, we're going to definitely talk about that part too. What would you, before we do that, what would you say to another financial planner or advisor who's considering writing a book in order to encourage them?
Just set a goal on your calendar. Say, hey, I want to do it by this date, and then get yourself to do it. And you probably already have all the material because you know so much. So just pull it together, like you said, make your outline, and just put your spin on it. Like don't copy anybody else because we're all talking the same language, most of us. But just give your ver- uh, version of it and share your story too, because your story is your glory.
I like that. I like that. I also encourage my clients, and just about any time I talk about marketing, almost it's a common topic for me to talk about is brand archetypes. So there are 12 branding archetypes that have their basically their foundation, and I think psychoanalysis actually, but they're good archetypes, because if you can figure out which one yours is, then as you write your book, yes, it may have the same information that others have, but you're doing it from your tone of voice, your, personal brand, basically.
That's
So,
interesting. I never heard of these 12 branding archetypes.
oh, I'll share them with you. Yeah, I'll share them with you. That's one of the most common ones is called the trusted advisor,
Mhm,
otherwise known as the sage. And when
mhm.
I used to work with cybersecurity companies, and it was sort of funny and aggravating at the same time, because when I would ask about tone of voice and if they had a brand archetype, they almost all of them wanted to be known as the trusted advisor. And the thing is you can still basically attract and generate respect and admiration without being the trusted advisor. There's others like the rebel, there is the average man, there's the magician, the jester. Let's see. I'll send you a
Maybe I'm the
PDF.
magician and the rebel because
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
to manifest and then I'm a rebel. I'm telling them the truth. Like, hey, this is what it is.
yes,
They don't want you to know
yes.
this, but this is how it works.
That's right. Well, there's the rebel, and then there's the hero. Now, the hero is more almost what you were just saying. What the hero does is the hero wants to save their prospect client from making a mistake.
Mhm.
And so basically they kind of ride in and save the day, and they defend their customer or target market, whatever, from being taken advantage of, from the lies, from the untruths that are out there
And I'm
about
here.
their
Yeah.
profession. Yeah. So that's the hero. But yeah, it's so much fun. The rebel is one of my favorites, actually. And a good example of the rebel is Harley Davidson. So the
Mhm.
motorcycles, as soon as you see their marketing, their commercials, whatever, it's all about being an individual, cutting your own way through life, and going against the grain, freedom, all of that. So I could talk about brand
Yeah.
archetypes all day because I love them so much. But yeah, so now the next part that what you just alluded to earlier was, how has this book affected your business? What have been the results?
Well, it's been great. I had it in a local bookstore, and Ed Slott, he wrote the testimonial on the back. So this couple was in the bookstore and they just watched or about to watch his PBS special, and then they turned it over like, "Oh, she's an Ed Slott advisor." Like, okay. So they read my book, they loved it, and like, okay, they came in for an appointment, and I was so excited about them because like typical people left to their own devices, they're just gonna go for these fads or things. So they had like this gold IRA, and like, what is this really doing for you? You need income. You don't need gold, you know? So I was
Right.
able to give them joint income for life and help them readjust their retirement goals and to provide them. Otherwise, had they been going the way they were going, they really weren't going to be able to retire. So that was really great to help them with that. We help them doing a Roth conversion schedule to help shift more assets to tax free. So I really enjoyed working with that couple. They were really nice. And then this is funny too. I even got somebody I was at, it was our Heroes of Zero conference last year with Ed Slott and David McKnight. And one of the advisors, I was selling my books there. They're like, "Oh, I want to buy your book." Then he tells me, he's like, "Oh, I just bought it because you were the hottest girl there." And I was like, but then he's like, "I read the book. You're actually smart." I'm like, "Of course I am." I'm like, "What do you think? I'm not just a pretty face. I have a brain." And then he wanted to like work with me, like help him because he didn't do like much insurance, and then help him with his clients. But again, as our businesses, there was no follow through on his end. So I was like, okay, but that would have been a good opportunity. And then just people are, I guess they're impressed. And then because then you're like, whoa, you wrote a book, you wrote two books. Okay. So you're like immediately an authority figure. Uh,
Yes.
so that's,
Yes.
and then I'm on your podcast here. So I help people. So I've gotten onto other podcasts. Someone just emailed me last night. "Hey, do you want to be on my podcast?" So you're getting, people are knowing you. Then you get to share that on social media, to your email list. Cause Yeah, nobody tells you this. You think, okay, you write a book and like, oh, this is good. But no, you don't get discovered. No one helps you. You have to get out there and promote yourself. Work. No one's going to work as hard as you are.
That's right.
Like I said, the lady I was working with, she gave me a list of people instead of calling up the show producers. Hey, I want to get Dawn on here. So it's like, it's all about you. You have to be out there and pushing yourself, getting out there, and yeah.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And it's even the big five, as they're called, the publishing houses. First off, a lot has changed in getting these publishing contracts, but they're looking for people, for instance, that already have a large group of followers. Okay, for first time writers. So if you're a first time writer, I mean, they're out there checking your social media and everything, but pretty much it's up to you to market your own book, whether you're with a traditional publisher or self-published, one way or the other. You need to get the word out, and you can use your book. Now, have you used your book? I'm just curious. This wasn't one of on my question sheet, but have you mailed your book to any potential clients? Have you gone that route?
To potential clients, no, I did mail it to actually Hudson News because I wanted to get into the airport. And it's funny, they turned me down. So what I did is I made a suitcase with my book and a QR code and walk around the airports when I'm out traveling. But no, I haven't really mailed it to a client. That might be the next thing because a lot of my workshops I do right now, I teach the changing world of retirement planning at educational institutions. So I did think about, okay, you know what? Let me just, since I already have a slide deck from my book, just kind of like revamp it, freshen it up a little, and then start promoting that. And then I could give out books to different people. A lot of clients also went out to support me to buy the book because I became a bestseller. And because you know how that is with Amazon, you got to get everybody to buy it at a certain time.
Right.
Or if you want to be on the New York Times, you need to have $150,000 to pay to get on the list, or have all your rich friends buy $10,000 worth of books from all different sources, which was like, I didn't have. And then it was funny. I asked David McKnight when I saw him I saw him last week, but I asked him a couple months ago when I saw him, I was like, hey, how did you get out there? He's like, well, I sold 140,000 books. I'm like, what the heck? And he's like, yeah, then I had an agent. I was like, damn. I'm like, okay, well. So I guess, like I said, you have to just, I guess, have a big following. Like basically he was teaching his classes. We all teach his class. So, and then just get out there. But
Right.
I haven't
Right.
really sent it out to clients because they basically went out and bought it themselves to support me.
Yeah. Well, one of the marketing tactics that now I've not myself done it, but other authors that I know have done this. And what they do is they create what's called a shock and awe box. So this is for people who are involved in direct mail campaigns, or they have a list of people. Maybe they have a list of some people that they've been following, they really want to impress. So what they do is they send a box and it will have maybe some goodies, maybe some promotional materials, and then your book.
Mhm.
And when people get that, I mean, the point of a shock and all box is to make it so that it feels like a real gift.
Mhm.
Like there's fun things in there, and things that could delight them, and maybe some edibles, special chocolates or a special tea or instant coffee or whatever. But the book is like part of that gift. Or you could just send your book alone also in the mail, to people that you would like to just connect with and let them know, hey, here's something that would interest you. You could mark your book, like certain chapters, especially if you know the person that you're sending it to and you're like, hey, this chapter might be of interest to you, so you could check that out. But there's just, oh my gosh, there's a lot of different ways of using your book to, you can mail things to people, but then also you can give your books away. You could have a contest. You could have on your website also, you know, only pay for shipping. This is a popular approach, by the way, by a lot of authors, where they will offer their book online and on their website, and they'll say, all you need to do is pay for shipping. Now, when they do that, they're getting that person's contact information. So then that allows them to continue to keep in touch with that person. They can put them on their email list for email nurturing or for further direct mail campaigns. So there's just different ways you could go with that. Do you go to networking events often, and have you brought your books? Like, maybe
Yeah,
some
I've had
copies?
book signings at Fem City. I'm a part of that organization. I was involved in a book expo. I also spoke at another networking thing, so I sold my books and did a little talk. So yeah, I,
Oh gosh, yeah. What you
yeah,
just, yeah, that's another part. I used to belong years ago to this National Speakers Association. And so it's called BOR, or back of room sales. So if, you know, the way that they basically presented speakers and books is they said, you need to have a book, plain and simple. And oftentimes you can make more money with the sales of your books or any kind of training materials you might be selling afterward than you do with a speaker's fee. So speakers fees can be lucrative, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes conferences just say, look, we don't pay speaker fees, but we're giving you the opportunity to get in front of people and you can sell your book after.
yeah, or
So,
you have to pay. I had that happen last year. Like,
oh
come
my
in,
gosh, yes.
and
Yes.
that did not work. They totally lied to me. The people weren't even qualified. I might have 60
Oh,
books and I spent like $3,100, $3,500 or something. I'm like, okay, that was a complete waste.
oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's terrible
Yeah.
when people do that, when they're not honest about
Yeah.
the audience,
Yeah, well,
Like
they
you
were just
said.
trying to promote to sell their real estate
Oh,
software or stuff like that. And they're like, oh, we had a Merrill Lynch guy, but he didn't want to handle certain types of clients. So now we have a spot to fill you in. And yeah.
yeah, it didn't work out. Oh, yuck.
So
Oh,
you really
well.
learn,
Well,
you gotta try it.
that's true. That's true. Like when you have an opportunity, you just never know what will come out
Yeah.
of that opportunity. So it could be that even though that didn't pan out, someone there might have referred someone else to you and you didn't even know.
Yeah, you never know. And now I'm on here sharing with other financial people. Hey, if you get contacted by this guy, it says we do these real estate workshops and they need this other advisor. They had someone and they decided that it's not for them. Now you know.
Right.
Stay away.
Oh my gosh. So moving on to some more questions. I just have a few more here. What surprised you the most about the process of writing a book?
What surprised me the most? I guess I thought it was just gonna be like, okay, cool, I'm a bestseller. Like, okay, I thought it would be more like I just expected, okay, good. I'm gonna get on this. I thought it would be easy to get like, okay, I'll get on these TV shows. I'm gonna hire this coach. She'll promote me, got me this PR. I'm really famous in Nebraska on some online blog. That's what the PR firm got me. And I was like, oh, that's kind of crappy. Nothing in my local market. So like I surprised about all, and I shouldn't have been, but all these different, and then people are coming at you, pay me this and I'll do this for you. A lot of scams come at you. I must have been getting calls all the time. Hey, spend 8 to 10 grand. We're gonna turn your book into a movie.
Oh my
I'm like,
goodness.
are you going to turn my financial section into a movie, really? Um, I don't know, like how that part of my book is going to come through, and just all this stuff. Um, so it, yeah. So that's what I thought. I thought it would be a total game changer. I'm like, everywhere I go, people will know me, and I guess it wasn't like I see other people, how the big publishers like the famous writers and stuff like that. I thought it would be easy to get into places, but no, it's still hard. I just got turned down. I wanted to go to this women's group and speak. They're like, oh no, but when we're looking for someone, I'm like, hey, here's my speaker's kit. I have this. That you're just okay. Now you have this book under your belt, but you still got to get out there and do something and share it with it. Not everybody's going to know you just because you wrote a book.
Right, right, right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to do your own marketing and you have to be creative in how you do your own marketing sometimes too. So, it's just like I was saying, offering your book online or mailing books out, having them included in a shock and awe box, maybe partnering with other people too, but always looking for the opportunities. The thing is, it is easier than ever really to get published. And that's
Yeah.
what has happened is the market is really inundated so much now with many books. Some of them are good, some of them are okay, some are bad. so so you have a wide variety of that out there. But the thing is I will I'm grateful because we're both on the Financial Planning Association board, message board, and you were the first one that responded to me. And I was so grateful for that because, I want to highlight financial advisor and financial planners who have written a book. I want to try to get it out there, that message a little bit more. I mean, I'm connected with a lot of different types of people. So it's not just financial advisors and planners I'm connected with. On LinkedIn, I have a lot of different types of people that I follow and who follow me. And so, connecting with people who, like you said, do the podcasts, that's a really great way to go. The other thing, I am going to put a little plug here for Lulu, that now they're not sponsoring me at all, but I just came from a conference on content marketing, and Lulu was the sponsor. Now, Lulu is an online publishing platform, self-publishing platform. So you can use Lulu to either just publish your books and sell them on the side, or they have a store that people can buy it from. But the difference between Lulu and Amazon is that Lulu, when combined with another platform such as Shopify or WooCommerce, but especially Shopify, that's what I know more of about at this point, is that when you connect that and you sell your book from your website, you're going to get the data.
Mhm.
If you're selling it through Amazon, you do not get that data. So I know the guy that started this event a few years ago, he has written, I think, like 8 books on content marketing. His name is Joe Polizzi, really great guy, very knowledgeable. And he's the one who actually coined the term content marketing. But he was kind of kicking himself, he said, because he said, years ago, I have sold thousands and thousands and thousands of books, but I have no idea who those people are. I will never be able to reach out to them. I'll never, be able
Yeah.
to send them anything further. But if you have that data, you can do that. You can mail them things. You could, again, use the email. So you have contact information that you could use. So, the point also, as far as like marketing goes, you market your book, but also people do refer others to you. So referrals are a big thing. And if, they have your book and then they can give it to someone else or whatever, and just to continue to encourage people, hey, talk to people about this. The other, which I'm kind of thinking you might not have done this, is having a launch team. So whenever you have a book and you launch it, and by the way, you could do this again. You could relaunch your book.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
figured. I did
Yeah.
have a launch team with my Fem City Systems because one of the coaches said
Yeah.
that have your launch team so they could go out and help you as well. But
Exactly. Yes. I've been part of now 2 launch teams and I've loved it because what they did is they gave me images for X, now, formerly Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. They gave me things that I could say on LinkedIn about their books, different ways to promote them. So things were already done. It's not like I had to try to figure out how to promote them. It was, all of that marketing, those assets were given to me, and I just loved it. So when you have a team of like, I don't know, 8 to 15 or maybe even 20 people who are out there doing that, that's a great way to get the word out.
yeah. And like you said too, you mentioned something about other referrals. I actually got a referral from another advisor because she's like,
Ah,
Dawn, this client, she would be perfect for you. She talks your language and I think you guys would hit it off. So she referred her to me. So that was nice too. And then there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, what was it? It was, oh yes, that you're doing this and interviewing CFPs and everyone because like there's tons of information out there like on TikTok and like Instagram, and some of these people aren't even credentialed and they're giving bad information. So it's good
yes,
that you're doing this, highlighting us, people who are credentialed, who know what they're talking about. Um,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I love it. So, what surprised you the most about publishing the book and being recognized as an author? So, I'm not sure if you have an author on your business card or, identifying yourself as an author, but at the times of people have recognized you as an author, what surprised you about that?
um, let's see. Like, see, I know a lot of authors because in my networking group, everyone, they're all a bunch of women who are successful and they write books. So I was just like, okay, well, yeah, I have a book. Like, I didn't really feel it was special until someone said, hey, that's really a huge accomplishment. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, not many people have books. I'm like, everybody I know has a book. So it's like, that was kind of shocking to be like, okay, because then I would compare myself. I'm like, oh, my numbers, they're not so good. But then, like, to the average person, like, yeah, even just like the thought of writing a book, I'm like, that's, so that was a little kind of like, that's what kind of like, it shocked me that it was like a big deal to other people who haven't written books, because I guess I got so immersed in that world. But yeah, everyone writes a book and they're, and like I said, David McKnight, he sold all that. I'm like, oh, I'm nothing compared to that. But it's like, to the average person, like, we don't even write a book. So like, you're like, that's amazing. You're the expert. And so I guess, how do I say that more concisely? I guess just, yeah, I guess like accepting, um, what's the way? Accepting that, like, the value that you provided and not taking it for granted. So I guess I just took it for granted. I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, everybody writes a book. And I'm like, okay. And then the imposter syndrome too, because like, when, like, it's so easy to become a bestseller on Amazon, but then it's like, I was at a conference 2 weeks ago and like the guy only made number 4. And I was like, oh, I got number 1 both times. I'm like, maybe it isn't that easy. But to me, I'm like, well, you don't have to sell that many books to be a bestseller. And I was like, so I was like, I guess being very critical of myself. So I guess not being so critical and like feeling proud and allowing myself to feel proud, not like, but like, okay, well, being critical. I'm very critical sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
We
so
can be
enjoying
our
that.
worst
So, yeah.
enemy.
Yeah. So even though I wasn't like a New York Times bestseller, like, okay, I made a difference. Those clients that bought my book, their life is forever changed. So that's a
Right.
win. Just because I didn't get on Oprah, which I really wanted to do, that doesn't mean I'm a terrible. No, I still have a book and I'm still helping people. So
Oh,
I guess,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And there's different groups of people out there that, I think about different churches that may, would be open to having you as a speaker. There was another financial advisor who actually partnered with funeral homes. So, being able to talk to a funeral home with people and just talking about some of those issues that happens when one partner no longer is here,
Yeah.
and so there's things like that. There's just different groups that you could probably reach out to too, also, to just talk, that I know that would love your approach, the manifest and invest,
Yeah.
you
And what
know.
was really interesting is I did a webinar and then the guy wrote back to me. He's like, oh my God, my wife, she loves your book. She bought it for her library. I'm like, how did she even find out about me? Like, cause she wasn't on the call or anything. Like, he just mentioned, hey, yeah, there's this girl, we throw her background. She had this book. She's like, yeah, I know that book. I'm like, really? So it's like, so sometimes you don't even know who knows about you. So that was
Right.
kind of like shocking. I was like, well, people, uh, and then I was in an Uber car. I'm in Pennsylvania, down in Georgia. And he's like, yeah, I heard about your book. I'm like, you did? I'm like, wait, are you talking about my book? So I still don't know if it was true. He's like, yeah, the spiritual path one only had that one, the spiritual path to prosperity. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, like I heard it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
That
Because I was
is,
like, how in the
yeah.
world would that happen? So, um, yeah, so that's sometimes it's shocking too. And it's like, okay, so you think no one knows, but then they do know. But you just don't know that they know, because how are they going to like reach out unless they reach out to your email? You're like, these people, though, I get emails to my website. Hey, I just got your book and I love this. Like, can we meet? So that's the
Right.
only way I kind of get that instant gratification or knowing like who's out there and enjoying it. And then when you look at the Amazon reviews too, because sometimes I've noticed, I don't know if you noticed, I don't get notified when someone writes me a review sometimes.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, so then I go, I'm like, oh, cool, another review. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's helpful. I know my husband, he writes a lot of reviews for different products that he orders. And so he gets all these notifications of when it's posted,
Oh,
but if you're on the other end, you don't really know unless you're checking your
yeah,
product page, really.
yeah.
So, okay, well, my last question is if you wanted to add anything more about your publishing journey, what you've learned, and if you're going to do it again, maybe.
Oh gosh, am I gonna write a third book? I don't know if I'm gonna write another book. Yeah, it is a lot of work. Well, now it's easy if you just go use Chat GPT, but I don't know if that's like kind of not like legit, like it's not really natural and authentic. I don't think AI can use your voice really. I don't know. Um, so what else would I add? The journey. I guess, yeah, if you feel it inside you, the burning desire to do it, then go do it. Don't wait, don't procrastinate, just go and do it. Especially if you're like, I guess, like you said, because no, I don't know any CFPs who talk about what I talk about. So, but eventually it's gonna be more mainstream. So you could be on the leading edge and like be that person. So just go do it. If you feel it in your heart, just write the book.
Right.
And like I said, even if it's just you help change one person's life, like imagine that. Like that's still a big deal because their lives are forever changed. They're so grateful for you. So share your story and what you have to offer. And then can I add some shameless plugs?
Oh, sure, sure. Go, please. Yes.
So yeah, if anyone wants to find me, they could go to my website, dsfinancialstrategies.com. I'm trying to build my YouTube following, and I just changed the name to Live Your Best Life, Get Your Money Right. So it'd be great if people could go subscribe, like, and share. And yeah, and I want to thank you, Mary Rose. I appreciate this opportunity. I was excited to be a part of this, and I thank you for selecting me to be on your show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. And thank you for taking the time to do this too. And yes, I need to get links from you so that I can include those because this is going to go on my YouTube channel. And then also I'm going to take the audio and use that for my podcast. So I have a podcast, the Financial Advisor Authority podcast. And I decided I'm just going to kind of insert these interviews every once in a while into the podcast itself, because I just want to get the word out. I think more financial advisors and planners should write a book. And if they don't have a book to write, in fact, I just started this service, and that is booklets. So booklets, very thin, and they don't take as much time to write as a full-length book. But having something printed and physical it just makes a big difference. And and I know you've probably already had this experience, but when you hand somebody your book and they're holding it, it changes their perception of you.
Yes.
Just like you said, you're instantly seen as an expert. So there's a lot of people out there that, write ebooks, and ebooks are fine, but there is something different about having a physical book.
And
Yeah.
they love when you autograph it for them. I'm like, oh, I feel
Yes. There you go. There you go. So yes, we'll get the links. So everybody watching, thank you for watching. I'm going to include those links. Make sure you visit Dawn's website, and please let people know if you know somebody who is just, if this is their groove, the whole thing of the manifesting and the law of attraction and everything. Dawn is your gal that you want to connect with. So I am going to stop the recording right now, and then and then you and I can just say our goodbyes after. So thanks so much again, Dawn. I appreciate it. And I will see you, my audience, on the next interview.